right, hi everyone. So this video we're going to go over the symptoms of leaky gut. So in my practice all the time, I have clients that come in and they give me a list of their symptoms. Most of the time it was Googled or things that they've been dealing with for years, and they want to know, is this part of leaky gut? I have all the symptoms. Is it, and how do these symptoms relate? They are so broad, and no two people, I mean, sure, two people can have it alike, but the signs and how leaky gut can present itself within symptoms can be very different for one person to the next. So symptoms of leaky gut, I'm just going to list them off and I'll kind of go through why for each one. So you're going to have joint pain and arthritis, brain fog, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, fatigue, food sensitivities, headaches, depression, anxiety. These are, just the broad step of the symptoms. So I'm going to go over why for each symptom. All right, so why is joint pain connected with leaky gut? And so you have particles going into the bloodstream, and the immune system is triggered, saying, hey, this is foreign, it's an invader, we don't want to hear it. It wants to get it out of the system. The first thing your immune system is going to do is try to encapsulate it. It's going to try to isolate it, and so it can manage it. It can break it down, microfills could eat it up, and it will be eliminated. To do that, it likes to store it somewhere in the body. And from what I have found, just from working with so many clients and seeing that kind of those first symptoms that come up, I feel that one of the favorite places that the immune system likes to hold different invaders within the body while it takes care of the invader would be the joints. The joints seem to be like the #1 spot that usually hurt and that we feel it the most. And so joint pain, and after a long time of holding this inflammation, because that is the immune system is encapsulating it, is causing an inflammatory response. And the inflammatory response, remember, is there to protect you. It's actually there to help you and to protect you and to do good work. And it is only a negative when it doesn't stop, when the work is never done and is pulling your nutrients and is causing a constant inflammation, a chronic inflammation state. And so when it's stored in the joints and it doesn't go away, we're getting into more of a chronic inflammation state that is centered within the joints, is when we get arthritis. All right, so that is the joint pain and the arthritis part. As far as the brain fog, so your gut creates 90% of your brain neurons. Let that sink in for a second. That is a lot. So 90% of your brain neurons are created by your GI and your microbiome that's working with your probiotics that are able to create those neurotransmitters. And so when those are broken down, when the body is unable to house the correct microbiome or the correct probiotics to create these neurotransmitters, we have an imbalance of neurotransmitters. And so that will lead to depression or the anxiety or any of those neurological I don't want to call them disorders, but struggles that we work with on and off throughout our life for majority of us. And that's stemming from a compromised GI. The brain fog in itself is an inflammation. So the inflammatory response from the particles being brought into the bloodstream, in the brain fog, it is being stored inside the brain. As I mentioned in a previous video, they're stored usually in joints, as it is for the joint pain, arthritis, or in different organs. And the brain fog is when it's stored in the brain. You also have the inflammation. You have different immune responses, and different fillers and different toxins that come into the body can cross the blood-brain barrier and cause a lot of inflammation on itself in that way. So if you think about it, if your brain is swelling, if it's inflamed, within your skull, you're going to have some issues. You're going to have some headaches. You're going to have the migraines behind the eyes. You're going to have the tension. And I'm sure you already know what I'm talking about. I don't have to go deeper into that. Best news is you remove the inflammation, you give the body what it needs to repair itself, and all these symptoms can go away. So we also have bloating. So again, the same concept of your microbiome not being present to be able to break down food fully, to be able to break apart the nutrients, to reassemble them, to function the way it is supposed to. So when you have fibers going into the body, and these fibers are not met with the proper microbiome and the microorganisms to break it down, the fibers then start to ferment. They start to grow within your GI, and this can cause the bloating. This can go where you're looking, 6 months pregnant, and nobody wants that, and it doesn't feel good. But the problem is you don't have the proper enzymes being created because your immune system or your GI is compromised, and you don't have the proper microbiome to break it down and to push it along. And so bloating is huge. And that falls right into the same as the constipation, diarrhea. Fiber, when you increase your fiber, you have to increase your body, you have to increase other parts, your enzymes, because you need that to break it down. Majority of fibers are hard to break down, which we want. Moves toxins and stuff out of the body, but this isn't a proper functioning system. So the constipation, fiber, when you increase fiber, for those of you who have worked with fiber, you can get constipated. And so if you don't have the proper things to break it down, the constipation can be real. And it comes into a diarrhea effect, because eventually the body's going to crunch it down, liquidize it however it has to, and you're going to have a flushing syndrome. And so that's where it's the extremes, from a constipation to a diarrhea for a lot of patients with a leaky gut. Also, the diarrhea part, the loose stool part, there's what's called the dumping syndrome. And so when something comes in, and it's another way the immune system is trying to protect yourself, the red flag goes off that says, hey, it's an invader, it's poison, we don't want it here. Instead of trying to isolate it and take care of it, it just dumps it out. And that would be where for those who know this, you're constantly trying to find that bathroom. And that is just the body saying, hey, we can't have this, get it out. It's called a dumping syndrome, which will lead to a lot of diarrhea. Skin rashes. So the skin rashes the skin is one of your main detoxers that gets things out of the body. You have your liver, you have your bowels, you sweat, vomit. There's a lot of ways that the body is going to want to expel something that it doesn't want out of the body. And skin is something that is one of those prolonged reactions where the body is it's the small amounts of poison being pushed out through the skin. It's not a large amount like it would want to expel it right away, as in vomiting or the diarrhea. It is the longer term built up effect that is going to want to come out of the skin and the skin rashes. Fatigue. So as we mentioned a few times, malabsorption of food, if you don't have the proper microbiome, if your system is compromised and you're not able to process the food correctly, you're also not processing the nutrients and the enzymes and the minerals and everything that your body needs to function, and it needs to repair itself, and it needs to heal, and it needs to move on. It doesn't have it. And so the body is not getting the proper nutrients. Even if you eat perfect, is not getting the proper nutrients it needs to keep your energy up. And when the body is stressed, it calls for more calories. It calls for more nutrients. When the body is trying to heal itself, or has an infection, or is sick in any way, it calls for even more calories and more nutrients and more minerals to help fight it off, keep the immune system up, to help repair itself. And so you have like 3 factors right now compiling on itself, all fighting for nutrients, all fighting for energy, all fighting for calories. and you're not able to give the body what it needs at that point. And this leads to fatigue, which leads to chronic inflammation and chronic fatigue. Food sensitivities. And so food sensitivities, you know, most adults come in like, I used to eat these all the time. Why can't I eat them? Why is it now I'm having issues with some foods and not others? And then sometimes it changes. I really don't understand. And I've read enough food sensitivity tests to kind of break it down for you, but to know really how frustrating that is and how that goes. So again, you have the food particles, which are normally harmless and needed, really. They can be very, very beneficial, but they're not being broken down, and now they're being put into the bloodstream and marked as a foreign invader, marked as an intruder, marked as bad, as toxic, as poison. And that is sending an immune response, and it's giving little triggers. And that is saying, hey, it shouldn't be here. It's not broken down. This protein isn't at the state that we can handle it, or this particle isn't at the state that we can handle it. And so when I see food sensitivity tests, especially with someone with a leaky gut, I see a lot of ones or a lot of low grade readings. And it's mostly for foods that they eat all the time. And that's because they eat it all the time. It's in their system all the time. And so it's being marked as a sensitivity in their food sensitivity test. And it's grown over time because that's what you've kind of programmed your body to do. Now on the food sensitivity test, if you're getting higher up on those markers, you're getting to 3s or to 5s, then it can change from just a food sensitivity that has been built up with a leaky gut syndrome versus more of an allergic reaction, more of a dangerous reaction, more of the food reactions that I'm going to say kind of stay away from. All the low grades, like the 1s and the 2s, once your GI is healed and your defenses are up and you have the proper microbiome to break down and utilize the proteins and the enzymes and all those appropriately, those foods can come back. They're not never by any means. For all the symptoms that I didn't mention, like I said, these are just the broad symptoms, and I'm sure a lot of you watching, I'm like, well, what is this? Is this part of leaky gut, or is this part of leaky gut? Feel free to message me or to ask me or to see how many of these other symptoms kind of line up, or how many of the other ailments you have that we touched on a different video. So I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you, everyone. I am so excited to share with you all of my tips and tricks and insights when it comes to leaky gut. So please subscribe and join our Freedom from Leaky Gut Facebook group to learn more.